Ave Maria, and welcome to this edition of Booklog. In today's programme we will have a look at this particular book here, A Handbook on Guadalupe. It's published by the Academy of the Immaculate and it's edited by the late Brother Francis Mary Kalvelage. The book is divided into 12 parts, covering subjects such as the apparition itself, scientific investigations on the tilma, a sketch of the life of the visionary Juan Diego, now Saint Juan Diego, and the theology and the spirituality of the Guadalupe apparition. In part 2 of the book, we are given a short history of the Aztec Empire, which ruled Mexico before the Spanish came, but its influence was still there at the time of the apparition. Although the Aztec culture was advanced in many ways, such as in science, agriculture, and the craft industry, the Aztec leaders ruled their people by tyranny, and human sacrifice was commonplace. Human sacrifices, thousands at a time, were offered to the Aztec pagan gods on top of pyramids. After the hearts were torn from the victims, their bodies were rolled down the sides of the pyramids and cannibalized. The book quotes the American historian Warren Carroll as follows: "Many primitive peoples have practiced occasional human sacrifice, and some have practiced cannibalism. None has ever done so on a scale remotely approaching that of the Aztecs. No one will ever know how many they sacrificed, but the law of the empire required 1,000 sacrifices in every town with a temple, every year, and there were 371 subject towns in the Aztec Empire. The total number was at least 50,000 a year, and probably more." One early Mexican historian estimated that 1 out of every 5 children in Mexico was sacrificed. It is known that entire tribes, numbering in the tens of thousands, were on several occasions exterminated by sacrifice. An almost universal symbol in Mexican religion was the serpent. Sacrifices were heralded by the prolonged beating of an immense drum made of the skins of huge snakes, which could be heard 2 miles away. Nowhere else in human history has Satan so formalized and institutionalized his worship with so many of his own actual titles and symbols. The apparition of the Blessed Virgin Mary triggered a massive conversion amongst the Aztec Indians. 8 million souls in less than 7 years. A miraculous cure associated with the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe involved an Aztec Indian. This occurred during the solemn transfer of the image to its new home in Tepeyac. During the ensuing celebration, an Indian was accidentally killed when an arrow pierced his neck. The dead man was taken to the foot of Our Lady of Guadalupe's image, whilst the congregation prayed to the Holy Virgin for a cure. As the arrow was removed, the dead man was restored to life. A fresh scar on either side of his neck, where the arrow had passed, was the only evidence of his brush with death. This was the second miraculous cure associated with the apparition, the first one being the cure of Juan Diego's uncle, as we will see in a moment. The series of 5 apparitions began on the 9th of December 1531, when Juan Diego, a peasant Indian, was passing the barren hill of Tepeyac and caught sight of a beautiful lady standing before a luminous cloud. She identified herself as the perfect and ever Virgin, Holy Mary, Mother of the God of Truth, and gave him a message for the bishop, namely, to build a church on the plain. Juan Diego went to the bishop, the recently arrived Fray Don Juan de Zumarca, a Franciscan. The bishop received Juan Diego cordially, but gave him no commitment. On returning home, the Virgin Mary appeared to Juan Diego a second time, at the same place. He related everything to her, and she told him to return to the bishop the following day. On the following day, Juan Diego went to see the bishop a second time. The bishop was willing to build a church if the Virgin would send him a sign. Juan Diego met with the Holy Virgin a third time on his way home and related everything to her. She asked him to return again to her the following day, and she would give him the sign the bishop requested. Now, when Juan Diego arrived home, he found his uncle on the point of death. His uncle asked Juan Diego to go and fetch a priest so that he could die with the sacraments. Juan Diego stayed with his uncle and thus missed his appointment with the Holy Virgin on the 11th of December. On the 12th of December, on his way to fetch the priest for his uncle, the Holy Virgin appeared to Juan Diego for the fourth and the last time. He apologized for missing his appointment the previous day and explained the reason why. She told him that his uncle was already cured. She told him to go to the top of Tepeyac Hill and gather roses as a sign for the bishop. Later in the day, Juan Diego carried the roses to the bishop in his mantle. When he opened his mantle to display the roses, the image of the Holy Virgin appeared on his tilma, the image of the Blessed Virgin Mary that we venerate in the Basilica of Guadalupe today. At the same time, the Holy Virgin appeared to Juan Diego's sick uncle and cured him. This was the fifth apparition of Our Lady of Guadalupe. The Miraculous Image was initially venerated in the bishop's chapel, but some weeks later it was moved to its new home at Tepeyac. The book also looks in detail at the examinations of the tilma that demonstrate for us how miraculous the image is in itself. We have already spoken of the miraculous conversion of the 8 million Aztec Indians. Indeed, the Aztecs were quick to see the rich symbolism on the tilma. Recent scientific findings have shown that the stars on the Holy Virgin's mantle are indeed the ones present over Mexico City just before dawn on the 12th of December 1531, the morning of the winter solstice, which occurred that morning at 10:40 a.m., probably just when Juan Diego was opening his tilma before the Bishop Zumarca. The Julian calendar, which was still in use at that time, had accumulated an error of some 10 days in regard to actual solar time. The star constellations are represented on her mantle, as seen from the outside of the dome of the heavens, that is, in reverse. The book goes on to look in detail at further rich Indian symbolism on the tilma. For example, examinations have also shown that the 9 large flowers on the tilma might represent specific volcanoes in Mexico. In 1921, during a period of anti-Catholic persecution in Mexico, a bomb exploded near the tilma, but it remained undamaged. The image even rejects dust and insects. It is reported that no matter what the temperature is in the surrounding area, the temperature on the image itself remains at a constant 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the body temperature of a human being. Perhaps the most famous scientific investigations on the tilma relate to the eyes. Beginning in the 20th century, intensive examinations by ophthalmic opticians have revealed that both eyes contained reflections of a bearded man. Based on old portraits still in existence, this figure is generally taken to be that of Juan Diego. Ophthalmic opticians have testified that even though they are opaque, both eyes in the image show depth and become filled with light when an ophthalmoscope's light is trained on them. They have asserted that it would be impossible to produce with paint such perfectly placed reflections in the eyes, offering so little space, with the Holy Virgin looking down, and on such rough-looking material as the tilma. The book also reports an incident in the 1970s when a Japanese optician was examining the eyes of the tilma and he fainted. When he recovered, he said the eyes were alive and looking at him. In a chapter entitled Guadalupe, the Immaculate Conception and the Franciscans, the link between Our Lady of Guadalupe and the Immaculate Conception and the role of the Franciscans in assuring this link is examined in a scholarly yet easy to read way. And the book tells us, by 1531, the year of the apparition, it was commonplace amongst Catholics to identify the woman of the Apocalypse as the woman who crushes the head of the serpent, with the Mother of God, co-redemptrix and Queen, under the title of Immaculate Conception. It was the Franciscan theologian, Blessed John Duns Scotus, who worked out the classic theology of the Immaculate Conception. Of particular interest is the view that when the Holy Virgin identified herself, she did not use the Spanish name Guadalupe, but a word in the Indian language, Quetzalcoatl, which means, I am the one who has crushed the head of the serpent who demands human sacrifice. To Spanish ears, the Indian words would have sounded like Guadalupe. In Extremadura in Spain, there is a shrine to the Virgin Mary which predates the Mexican apparition, and where she is also known under the title Guadalupe. By the end of the 15th century, the Franciscans had placed in the Spanish shrine a statue of the Immaculate Conception. There is an extraordinary similarity between this statue of the Immaculate Conception and the image on the tilma. The book tells us that both Christopher Columbus and Queen Isabella of Spain were both Third Order Franciscans, as well as great devotees of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Columbus visited the Extremadura shrine on several occasions, and Queen Isabella and her husband Ferdinand spent 2 weeks at the same shrine before Columbus set sail for America. The role of the Franciscans is examined further, and the book tells us that at the time of the apparitions, the Franciscan order was popularly known as the one which preached the Immaculate Conception. Our Lady appearing at Tepeyac made use of the Franciscans and their long tradition of devotion to the Immaculate. First of all, in the person of the Franciscan, Bishop Zumarica, who openly supported the building of the first church at the site which she indicated. Today, Our Lady of Guadalupe is venerated under several titles, including Empress of all the Americas and Patroness of the Unborn. And her shrine is one of the most visited shrines in the world. This book is an excellent account of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and at the same time it's very easy to read. It contains just over 220 pages and is well illustrated with photographs. Details as to how this book can be obtained will come up on your screens shortly. So thank you for listening to this episode of Booklog, and let's close with an extract from a prayer of Pope Pius XII, an address to Our Lady of Guadalupe. For we are certain that as long as you are recognized as Queen and Mother, Mexico and America will be safe.